A lot of people have experienced sound and they perceive what they hear as a recording. Your brain just doesn't believe it's a real event. What we're trying to achieve is to trick your brain into believing that what you're hearing is real. When a speaker system is properly set up, it'll create a soundstage that's almost three-dimensional. With just two speakers, you can pinpoint where people are standing as they play their instruments.
To set up your Martin Logan speakers, you'll need a few tools: a tape measure, a flashlight, some tape, and a familiar recording. And don't forget a trusty assistant. Find a general starting place for your speakers. Make sure the speakers are at least 2 feet away from each wall. If there's room, 5 feet from the back wall is even better. Next, you need to determine the ideal listening position. The speakers and the seated listening position should form a triangle, and the distance to the listener should be between 1 and 2 times the distance between the speakers. Keep adjusting the speakers until you've got the spacing just right. Now adjust the toe-in or rotation of the speakers. The listener should hold a flashlight at chin level and point it at the speaker. Rotate the speaker until the flashlight beam highlights the inner third of the panel.
When your Martin Logan electrostats are new, they will require a bit of break-in. I just recommend leaving them on for 72 to 100 hours at a moderate listening level. What this will do is allow the bass to deepen and the highs will actually become more spacious and they'll open up a little.
Once the break-in period is over, it's time to fine-tune the speaker placement. Start by finding the speaker's ideal distance from the back wall.
When you move your speakers away from or towards the back wall, it's going to change the way the bass is reproduced within your room. So what you want to find is a spot where the bass is not overwhelming, but it's still adequate and it still blends well with the rest of the instruments in the performance.
Keep adjusting the speakers until the bass sounds right. You'll need to do the flashlight test again after each move to make sure the toe-in is correct for the listener. After finding the ideal distance from the back wall, do the same for the side walls.
As you move your speakers towards or away from the sidewalls, what you'll find is that the sound stage that's being reproduced in the middle is going to change. The sound may pull into one speaker. If it is, then they probably need to move in or out from the walls. If the sound is too big, if a vocalist, for example, sounds like they're 10 feet tall, that means that the speakers are too far apart and you need to move them closer together. If all the sound sounds crowded right in the middle of the room and there's no spaciousness between the performers, it means the speakers need to move further apart.
After you've found the right distance from the sidewalls, do the flashlight test again to ensure correct toe-in. Now that you've found the correct speaker position, use tape to mark it so you don't lose the position when you add spikes. Gently place the speaker on its side and unscrew the feet from the bottom of the speaker. Replace each with a spike.
The last step is to adjust the rake or the tilt of the speaker. When you lean the panel backwards at an angle, you'll probably perceive that there's a little more three-dimensionality in the soundstage.
To find the perfect rake, tilt the speakers back and forth until you hear the best sound. It's best to have 2 assistants adjusting both speakers at the same time. Use the flashlight to keep track of the best angle. The highlight should be in the same place on both speakers. Now adjust the spikes on the front of the speaker, increasing their height so that the speaker will tilt up to the correct angle. You are now the proud owner of properly set up Martin Logan speakers.
At the end of the day, despite what we tell you in the setup video, everything boils down to personal preference. The important thing is to experiment, to try different things, to listen, to study, and fine-tune it even more. Just trust your ears.